Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 198 of gijoburg. That's right, South Africa's best G.I. Joe podcast, and I am joined by my regular partners in crime. Let me hear it, guys.
South Africa and Australia. Yeah.
And Australia.
Honorary permanent resident over here, Steve, reporting for duty.
Also,
Rob
who else
Down.
is in the Rob
down
Down
here in Cape Town. Yeah, I'm Rob Down. Down
Awesome.
for action.
Rob down in the Capitown. Yes, we are pondering in episode 198, A World Without G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero. Oh, the horror. But it's an interesting intellectual exercise, if nothing else. How did this brand affect you? And I think, in my case specifically, quite profoundly. But hey, we're all here, which means that both us speaking and you listening were also profoundly affected by this brand. So we are going to discuss the fallout of it not existing. I don't know, guys, were you ever fans of What If comic books?
I love What If comic books.
They're always a lot of fun to kind of explore other alternatives. Like you could just go really crazy. I mean, Marvel obviously did it a lot more than DC did, but I think especially early DC was every issue was essentially a what if. Like, what if Superman had, I don't know, like trees for fingers? Or what if Superman lost his powers for a week? Or what, every single story was a what if.
Well, okay, yeah, there's that. I mean, I always liked it when they did those cool spin-offs like Superman the Red Sun, that kind of thing. That was cool.
The Elseworld stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so what if Superman had landed in Russia instead of America, and how would that have changed Superman? Would he still be heroic?
Has anyone seen the cartoon adaptation of that book?
I haven't seen the cartoon one. I've just read the comic. So, is it good? Have you seen it?
It's middling at best, and what pushes it away from being good even further is the fact that whoever they cast as Superman is not a native Eastern European or Russian speaker at all, and I think that's a crying shame. It's clearly a voice actor who is attempting a Russian accent and is sometimes falling short of it, which is a real shame when your lead has to be thickly Russian accented and can't. But that's just me. I'm down with dialects, guys. It's not something that would necessarily get to anyone else, but I just think it's a crying shame, man. Cast someone a little bit more authentically. But then again, I don't know how these things are cast. It's probably quite a nepotistic environment, whoever gets to work for DC Animation.
I don't know, man. But you know what? Before we get into all of that madness, I just want to quickly check. Did you guys get anything new this week? No new toys?
No, nothing new, unfortunately. I'm dry. Well, I'm not dry. I finally had beers for the first time in over a year and a half.
Oh my word!
Yeah, I just didn't feel like ever buying any. So then finally when the bottle stores opened last week, not last week, it's been open for a while. But I thought, okay, let me have beer again because I felt like having beer. So I bought a couple of Amstels and yeah, beer is still good.
Hot, eh? Well, I hadn't had a drink since Elliot was born for a while. And then when we released Slaughterhouse, Zazel and I met up for a beer, a little victory dance, and I was like, oh, yes, I'm back, baby. This is so good.
That's awesome. That's actually cool. Beer is good, Rob. I'm glad that you got some beer in. And then And Robbie, I mean, is there anything cool at the shop that you want to tell us about, maybe? Like anything toy-wise that's awesome there, that's exciting, that's caught your eye, maybe?
I think probably the only newest thing that we got was a Diamond Select. What's his name?
Guy.
John Wick figure.
Okay.
He's kind of cool. But he's like 6-inch. So I'm like, eh. But it's cool because it's like a deluxe version. So it comes with a bunch of all of his weapons and a case for his weapons and a couple of gold coins and shit like that. So it's a really nice version. I'm really happy for whoever buys it.
Oh, cool, man.
Wick. Johnny Wick.
All right, Paul, over to you. Rubbing your faces.
But Stephen, I'm surprised you didn't get anything new, since we last spoke.
You know, the stuff that I kind of have been unpacking in the past few episodes, I actually ordered before the arrival of my kid. I haven't been so active on the shopping. But
Right.
that said, I do have some hooks out for some things. And I think this is the year that S-Jubs over here finally gets a Sky Striker. It's about
Hell
damn
yeah.
time. So, yeah, trying to get a line on one that isn't going to gouge me. I don't need parachutes. I don't think I even need Ace particularly. I would just like landing gear that functions, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if
Okay.
the stickers are for Cacta. That's right too. But yes, this is the year. Yeah, it's about time. But
Well,
Paul, please
yes,
regale
yeah.
us.
Yeah, well, it's not like a lot, okay, but something that's cool. I mean, I'm sure if our listeners haven't had a chance to check it out, I did an unboxing a few days ago. Actually, it's on YouTube. It's called Dustin's Box. Dustin Cordish, who is a long-time supporter of the show and friend of the show, sent me a box a while ago in 2020, actually, which finally arrived now, which is a whole. I don't want to do the mental maths because I'll get it wrong, but it's a lot of months. It's more than 5. So, but yeah, it finally arrived, and it's really, really cool because inside it was filled with some Dollar General GI Joes, and there's such a weird. It's such a weird like spin-off of a toy but such a cool sort of sideline. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't like sort of quote unquote official releases, but they kind of were. But they released some characters in a way that I thought was quite necessary. And a good example of that was they had done that the 1990 version of Snake Eyes, or the 1991 version of Snake Eyes, if I'm not mistaken, and in a modern era form. And it's close enough, and it doesn't have the sins of the 90s figure. It has no neon orange or anything on it, which is cool for some people. Technically, it's a neon red, but anyway, whatever. Let's not go there.
Hey man, they at least kept the visor.
Yes, yeah. So they kept a lot of, they released these.
And Dollar
these
General guys are never going to come with a plethora of accessories anyway, so don't worry, you are spared the spring-loaded backpack. But for some people, that is a bit of a lose situation.
But hey. I think it's they're pretty cool toys. I like them quite a bit. And when they were first initially released, I really wanted to get my hands on them, but I didn't quite have the dollar to do so, and so I missed out on a whole bunch of them. Only managing to have gotten Snake Eyes back in the day. And yeah, so Dustin sent me a box full of them, 4 of them in fact, and I now have a very, very sexy shipwreck, a T-Jinzu or Chinzu, depending on how you want to pronounce that. I've got a green shirt Duke, which to
the Ginsu knife set. If you order now, we'll double the whole offer.
What's that thing it's meant to come with? Like that ninja
double big.
And it's cool. Like
that's a knife.
That's a knife. And then I got a green shirt. I mean, it's green shirt Duke, but it's actually a green shirt, to be fair, which is which is actually pretty cool to have in one's collection, I think. And then I got a black Cobra Trooper, which in my mind is just the Stinger driver, which is pretty cool. And he's not really a trooper either. He's an officer because he's got that V thing on his helmet. So like that was a really cool set. And then I just got some great vintage toys as a bonus in that box. This awesome salvo with his crotch intact, which makes me very happy because I have an uncrotched salvo. Got another ambush, which is always great. And as if you watch the unboxing, you'll see why I think that's a cool thing. Rampart. Because you can never have too many of this guy, I believe. No, Rampart's just a really cool toy. Glad to have got him in the box. And Backblast, because why not? Backblast.
My dad had a field day when he caught sight of Backblast's file card. He was like, Backblast.
It's like skid mark.
Exactly. I thought this was very amusing.
And then the cool little, the surprise, the other surprise sort of toy that I found was I finally got a chance to get into a shopping mall, and one of my usual toy dives had some new Transformers Kingdom toys. Does anybody want to guess which new Transformers Kingdom figure I got?
Bumblebee. I guessed incorrectly in a private chat, but I said Megatron, dinosaur Megatron, that is.
Yeah.
Which I recently saw at a toy world here, and I thought, geez, these are two
Cool.
things that drive Paul absolutely up the wall. Not up the wall, drive him crazy. Yeah, they make you.
In a good way.
They hit your sweet spots. Dinosaurs and Transformers. And Beast Wars. I'm sure being a 90s kid, that show rocked your world.
It totally did. Totally did.
But you corrected me and said, no, it was not Megatron.
However, it would have been if they had stock. But I did get, and Rob, to my knowledge, there's no Bumblebee in this line, but I suppose this character is close enough. I got Cheetor. Ooh, yeah. Because
character.
Cheetor is a cool character, and I dug him in Beast Wars, and we never got the Beast Wars Transformers action figures here in South Africa. So, yeah, and I always used to watch this show, and I was always like, oh, I'd love to have a Cheetor and a Tigertron like figure from that show, and of course I would love a Megatron, Maximal or Predacon Megatron, but yeah, we never got any of that cool stuff, and as it turns out, I was lucky we didn't, because they've released the best versions of those toys now, and I finally have
and
Cheetor.
Affordable. Yeah,
yes.
I mean, you could have gotten the masterpieces. They've done, I think, Dinobot. They've done Tigertron. They've done Megatron. Who else have they done? Obviously, Optimus Primal. But that would have definitely gouged you. So yeah, getting these, and you're of course less afraid to play with them, of course.
Exactly. Yeah. Because then they didn't cost me an arm and a leg, and I kind of like the sort of stock standard Tomy Takara kind of offerings. Like, I think the masterpieces are amazing, but like you said, they are expensive. And just having these kind of like the sort of standard releases, I could buy them in a toy shop, just adds to the excitement factor. And I don't want to go.
Every time you transform a masterpiece, you are like on your best guard that you haven't chipped a bit of paint or a fleck of chrome. It's terrifying. Yeah, no, go with the standard releases. And also, what is so fun about the Kingdom line? Something that only dawned on me when I saw the Rat Trap is that they've got the scaling down. Like, obviously, Optimus Primal is whatever the larger class is, and then Cheetor is the middle class, which seems to be getting smaller and smaller these days. Yeah, I see you, Takara Hasbro. You're skimping on plastic in that middle class. And then Rat Trap, being rat, is the small, like, single-carded, party size.
Hey, put them in your pocket.
So you can assemble the beast Transformers in a very accurate scaling and have them kind of interact as they would on the show. Lovely. I love that. It's tickles my OCD.
No, as it does mine, because there's an Optimus Prime in that line, which is like quite small, and he's the correct scale to the T-Rex or to the Megatron, to the Predacon Megatron, which is, I think, is badass. Like, they can't look at each other eye to eye because he is actually smaller. So I think that they did that. But yeah, guys, I don't want to get into this too much, but I got to say the engineering on Cheetor is pretty cool. It is a little bit of a fragile feeling toy, but definitely one for your collection if you are a fan of Beast Wars. And
does he have a gut gun?
He doesn't have a gut gun. He's got like a tail. His tail turns into this like very like hectic kind of hookish kind of axe
weapon. That's why I passed on him. That you've just put my finger on your toy. He's got no gun. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's somewhat a reduction from his original loadout.
True that. But then they've also done this sneaky thing where they've released this one figure in the line, which is like a skeleton, and I saw it on Fuse reviews. Yeah, and he just like, you can turn that thing into weapons and armor and all kinds of mad stuff. So I think that's kind of why they didn't give him a gun, because they want you to go and buy the Paleotrix or Bony Tony or whatever the hell it's called.
Skeleton Transformer.
Yeah, it's like this mishmash.
Pay Hasbro money for a box of bones. Nice.
But like,
thanks.
But to be fair, out of all of like Hasbro's kind of cash gouging with regards to Transformers, I think that one is probably one of the more creative releases of that, because they've been doing these like it's not a vehicle, it's like a refueling station or some crap, and then you can take parts of that and put them onto your other Transformers to, make armor or guns or whatever's. But it's like essentially you're buying nothing. At least with that Paleotrix thing, you're buying an actual character, I feel, that has something to it. But anyway,
I feel like you're getting less of a character than you were with and I am blanking on the name, but whatever they produced for Siege. Yeah, there was an Autobot one and a Decepticon one that basically breaks down into weapons that can be ported onto the regular release figures.
Yes, yeah.
But it also had a robot mode and a alt mode, if I'm not mistaken.
But the alt mode's like a little base to drive your little, like, $10 Transformers onto.
Which is great. I was a big fan of not Micro Machines, close enough. Micro Masters. Like just creating an environment for these little guys to stand around and man things. Lovely.
I love that, but South African prices don't make that feasible. But anyway, guys, that's enough.
I'm glad you found Cheetor. Troy in the chats lets us know that in the States, Cheetor was a tough one to find. I would probably anticipate that. I mean, he was, to the Beast Wars generation, the hot rod, the cool, reckless young character that we all kind of enjoyed a little bit more as a kid and perhaps find a little bit more annoying now as an adult. Mm-hmm. But I was always a Rat Trap fan. I was like, yeah, smart talking. He was like a New Yorker, wasn't he? Hey, man, what's going on?
He's like Tunnel Rat, yeah.
And he always had the opinion like, we should run away and hide. Like, Predacons are dangerous, man. Don't mess with them. But he was expert with explosives, which is like Tunnel Rat, in fact.
Tunnel Rat, yeah.
So lovely little parallels.
I also love Dinobot, man. He was too cool. But anyway, we're not.
I think even at a young age, I realized, like, yeah, Dinobot is made to be cool. I'm not gonna go with popular opinion here. Like, everyone's gonna like Dinobot. Oh, the bad boy. It's Mercer. Of course, Paul likes him.
But guys, if you want to hear this more on this chat, please subscribe to our other channel, Berg Formers. I'm kidding, it doesn't exist.
But people are going to say in the comments below, it should.
It should, like Heberg and the Masters of
you love us, don't you?
Yeah, Heberg and the Masters of Cape Town. I believe there's new stock arriving next week. Anyway, on to the topic at hand, ladies and gentlemen.
Just to cap off new shit, once again in the chats, Ryan Sweeney, thank you, sir, has reminded us all that Marauder Inc. do a very nice John Wick character in the 3 3/4 inch or 4-inch scale. They're using that suited buck, and you can get a nice Keanu head to match, and there you go, baby.
Bart has 2 of them.
Avenge some dogs.
Which is like, I know you don't like John Wick, but I love John Wick, dude. I think I love the first one. I think the second and third one were like, okay, whoa. I mean, I still
You're putting words in my mouth. I don't mind John Wick. I just don't think I have room in me for like another action hero.
Right.
The
first film just resonated with me so hard, man. And then it's become like Fast and the Furious with guns, which is okay, because like I have a love-hate relationship with Fast and the Furious. That's Storm Shadow guy that what's his name, Tommy? Rob, you had to deal with that asshole. He sent you a letter, and he's all like, "Why haven't you checked out the new Fast and the Furious 9 trailer?" And I get where he's coming from. Like it's a love-hate relationship.
I will eventually watch the Fast and Furious movies.
Speaking of trailers, though, it just occurred to me we should have probably started this recording tomorrow, because I think a little bit later, this being Sunday for the US, the MTV Music Awards will be premiering the Snake Eyes trailer.
Oh, hot damn.
That's pretty amazing, actually. Firstly, I didn't know MTV was still a thing.
No, I know. Not many of us are keeping tabs with that stuff. I mean, the quick retort by a few folks online was like, why are they premiering it on MTV? Isn't that just aimed at 13-year-old girls? But which is dubious for the Snake Eyes viewership. But it is probably going to get us old-timers watching at least a little snippet of it. or catching it on YouTube later. But bottom line is, I'm interested to do perhaps a reaction video with you guys. Maybe we diverted away from this episode, and we'll hopefully you'll be able to catch it on YouTube at some stage from the G.I. Joburg boys.
Yeah, that'll actually be quite fun.
I've been excited to kind of do a reaction video after watching a couple of other reaction video channels. It's crazy the emotions people go through when they react to things.
I anticipate very few emotions at a kind of a live action G.I. Joe adaptation, particularly one that has so many perhaps out of place elements. I don't know. Maybe it will be a thrill to see things that are familiar. I do know that both Scarlet and Baroness are looking fantastic. Some images,
Baroness.
some stills were released this past week. Yeah, very cool.
That's 4 good reasons to watch.
Zing.
Man, I gotta say that. Yeah. In fact, actually, while we're talking about it, I'm sure you guys have seen those images. I mean, we've just mentioned like, oh, Baroness looks so good, oh, whatever looks so good. But we've seen those images of the Snake Eyes movie online. What did you guys think from what you've seen? I've got one thing I've got to say, and I'm going to post the image here in the chat. So I'd love to hear your thoughts quickly while I get my picture for it.
Lorenzo de Bonaventura said that having an athletic star makes action sequences essential. You know, if you've got a guy like Henry who is lean and mean and limber and ready to do whatever they throw at him. I think this was in reference particularly to a picture of him doing a sort of a one-handed, I don't know what you'd call it, a kind of a spring back. Paul, you know the move, right? I'm sure you've done it in your dance career, if not your kung fu career.
Or both.
So yeah, he's got his sword in the one hand and is flipping backwards off his backhand.
Oh, it's a one-handed. It's a one-handed spring. It's a single-handed handspring.
I did one yesterday, actually.
Oh, nice.
I still got it, guys. This old back hasn't given up just yet.
Hey, Mom's gonna get you in the show in 2032.
Jeez. Oh man, but yeah, no, the images are great. The costumes look. I mean, the image of Scarlet looks like her costume is a little bit too close to black again, which always, gets a boo out of me. I'm like, guys, let's get some color, let's get some boldness. If the MCU has taught us anything, it's that you can sometimes clothe characters in their classic look. And you can get away with it.
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier make a very good case for that. With the Falcon.
True.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I think it's very safe to clad everyone in something very muted and very black and very dark and grey and brown and whatever. And I was never expecting to see Lycra or a unitard.
Hey,
But
unless Wes Anderson directed it, then it would have been like super colorful and stuff. Anyway, let me show you guys that a picture that I saw that has freaked me out a little bit. Actually,
Rob, have you got a response for?
I think it all looks really good. I mean, there's some really cool atmospheric shots. I think they got Storm Shadow in the rain in some back alley, and I thought that was really. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Does that fill you with joy, Paul? Why are you showing?
It fills me with joy because can you guys see Storm Shadow's swords? Maybe.
Yes.
Oh, there's my mouse pointer. You see the handles here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You see the Suba, which is
those are 2 short swords.
Very short swords. like
They're
that
like daggers.
is more than half the length of the blade, which is not correct. And I'm not trying to be like anal retentive here. I think there's a blade missing in this shot. I mean, and I've noticed that a lot of press shots tend to show this picture off. And I don't know if this is going to. Oh no, it's going to zoom in. But a lot of press shots sort of show this in such a way that the swords aren't shown, and so you only see the handle. So
Do you think it's a special effects shot that they haven't actually completed?
Yeah, they haven't done any
interesting.
like post-production on. So like I was like, whoopsie guys, now you're making Storm Shadow feel like he's like highly inadequate. He's not only does he have a short sword, he has two.
Well, I still like the atmosphere. I think it looks like it's a cool shot. Definitely, it's going to play really well.
Yeah, I think the art direction in this film so far, or from what I've seen from the pictures, makes me very happy. Like this is like literally the only gripe I have with everything I've seen so far. Everything, otherwise it all looks good. I even love this actor for Storm Shadow. So that is true. Ryan says it's not the size of the sword, but how you use it. This is very true, and especially true if you have two. Anyway,
jeez.
But I really hope that is a special effects thing because it just seems very unusual. And I imagine it is definitely a special effects thing because the toy doesn't come with two short swords like this. So, sometimes that's a good signifier. Also, dig this actor for Storm Shadow. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys and see what you thought. See if you had any lingering feelings about these new images, considering that the movie...
I will just say it is a hell of a ball ache if your armor... or in order to make the scenes easier, has this kind of cutoff to the sheaths, and now it's on your VFX team to fill in the swords every time.
Yeah,
no man, that just does not seem correct at all.
Yeah,
that's just going to multiply your budget. But anyways, what do I know about the machinations of big budget filmmaking?
Well, they've done some
I
crazy
shoot my toys
stuff
with my iPhones.
They've done some crazy stuff with CGI. I believe in one of the later Harry Potter movies, Daniel Radcliffe was spotting quite a bad like acne or something on his face, or like pimples or something, and they had to go through the entire movie and basically CGI that stuff out for the entire movie. So they'll go to like crazy lengths to do weird shit with CGI in movies. Things you probably wouldn't even realize that is CGI'd.
Yeah, it's actually quite surprising how much stuff is CGI in film. I mean, I know when I was interning in Cape Town, in Cavendish, I'll have you know, in 2001, I was interning at a place for like 2 months. I did like a job shadow thing there, and at a place called Suspended Animation. And we were working on some Benicio del Toro film. I can't even remember the name of the movie. But a lot of the work that in fact, actually, we didn't know the name of the movie because we weren't under NDA, only the big team was. And we were responsible for animating the shells coming out of the bullet. Out of the gun. So when the gun was discharging and the shell casings come out, we were doing the shell casings in CG.
Huh.
So that was one fun thing. You'd be surprised how much stuff is actually CG, and I mean, I actually had half a thought that you were going to say, Daniel Radcliffe probably was sporting a raging boner throughout the whole production and all that. But, I'm glad to hear it was just zits.
It was just acne. Yep, just zits. And yes, Gaz, you are right. Zartan does look very cool in his predator cloaking device in that picture.
Guys, a quick question. Now that Gaz has brought up Zartan, quickly, have you seen, and I don't know if this is legit or if this is just somebody's custom or what the story is, but there's like a blue Zartan classified figure. Have you guys caught wind of that at all? Is that like a real thing?
No, I haven't seen anything to do with that.
Negative.
I saw a photo of this, and it was done in package and stuff, and I've got a feeling it was like a creative. I don't know. Part of me feels like maybe it was just a custom, a really nicely done custom. They painted that blue quite well. Okay, shot Ryan, because I was just about to say that is going to bring all kinds of madness to an original already mad situation.
Just like the Hasbro press release saying, "Hey, it's got its color change feature." No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. All it does is it changes your money from being in your hand to not being in your hand. If you can actually But you do, Ryan's right. You do get color changing paint. So,
you could do it yourself, yeah.
Could do it yourself, DIY. Anyway, enough about that movie that's coming out in like a few months' time. I think it's like 2 months' time from this recording. Let's imagine for a second, guys, a world without a real American hero.
No, I don't want to.
We came out into the world in the 80s, and we would never run into this fantastic toy we now know today as G.I. Joe. How would this have changed your life? What do you think you would have been playing with? What about that freaks you out? Share your thoughts. Let's start with Sexy Rob's voice for a change.
Well, there's so many possibilities, but I mean, I really can't imagine not having G.I. Joe. Obviously, I mean, we're all sitting here on a G.I. Joe podcast. It's obviously formed a huge part of our lives. But I think my most optimistic interpretation of this, or at least an alternate reality, would be, even without G.I. Joes, I think I'd still be playing with toys. I'd probably still be collecting something or other. I mean, alongside G.I. Joe, before I discovered G.I. Joe, I mean, I had He-Man, I had Thundercats, so I probably might have been I don't know, He-Man collector, or a Thunder Bro, or whatever they call themselves. But then also, I don't know, what do they call it?
If they don't, they should.
Or, I mean, and like a big part, even after like, me and Steven still met. I mean, his family was still friends with my family. I mean, yes, we played with Joe's initially, but we were also playing with Bionic 6. Transformers was a big thing. So I can imagine Super Soakers. Yeah, absolutely. So I can still imagine a reality where Steve and I would have, still have ended up getting wild together, just getting in the pool, photo shoots.
Squirting each other.
Net iron. Hell yeah, squirting each other.
Playing with 5 POA Bionic 6. Cool. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And Transformers as well.
Bionic 6 didn't have 5 POA. What are you talking about?
No, but they probably would have. Because there's no G.I. Joe.
Because G.I. Joe didn't exist.
Uh-huh.
Shit, Paul's been thinking long and hard about this stuff. The impact of the swivel arm battle grip and the O-ring.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think even like Transformers, I mean, was a big thing with us. So, I mean, there are a lot of other properties that we could have, kept going with and become huge fans of. But outside of toys, I mean, I was still a big fan of comic books. I could probably have ended up collecting lots of superhero figures. But I think, Secret Wars, that sort of stuff. And there were all the 90s, like Spider-Man figures. I mean, we're big into those. But outside of toys, I probably would have still been heavily into comic books and books. I don't know. Like, I just can't get rid of G.I. Joe from my mind enough to imagine a place where, like, G.I. Joe doesn't exist enough.
That's the challenge of this topic, Rob. Gee,
exactly.
Yeah.
No, I thought about it as hard as I could, but like all I can think of is just, other things that would kind of take its place, like Transformers. I mean, we would be big bot heads, I suppose. Creating huge stories around those conflicts, because I mean the conflict is similar in a way. These kind of like two enemies fighting each other eternally.
I just don't think Transformers invited the complexity of playing, and this might fly in the face of all Transformers fans out there who do imbue the big transforming robots with a lot of character, and they can have a progressive storyline with them. But I think G.I. Joe, because the single unit, the avatar, the figure, the base character was a human who could then kind of be used with playsets, with vehicles, with equipment, but ultimately you're boiling it down to a single individual. I think allowed you to imbue a lot more human characteristics and connect better with it. Like I never really connected with a Transformer. I thought they looked cool. The alt modes were cool, but like you'd never play with your Transformers in a kind of a downtime situation. Them just like sitting around base, having a conversation. Like if you were playing with Transformers, you were like Decepticon versus Autobot, like doing battle, tearing robots apart, transforming. That I didn't ever feel like I was in a base having conversation between two robots. It just didn't happen. It was just all action, and then you pack up your toys and go home.
Yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from there. I mean, there's only action. There's no like interaction between.
I think
between
G.I. Joe as a toy play pattern has so many more dimensions than anything else. That's my assertion at the top of this debate. Paul, we haven't heard an opinion from you just yet.
Yeah, I'm just letting you guys fly with it. I think. Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying with the Transformers thing. I mean, I know for me, I loved robots, and I still love robots to this day. As a kid, I was like, robots. Robots were amazing. Whenever somebody brought a robot toy to school, I was like, all over that thing. It was awesome. But G.I. Joe as a toy allowed me, introduced me to something else entirely different, like guns and action guys and ninjas. Like it's a weird thing to say, but like Ninja Turtles would still be a year or two off. But I was introduced to ninjas and that kind of idea way before Ninja Turtles, for example. And that I think I have G.I. Joe to thank for that in a lot of ways. I also think like what you guys are saying, just coming back to the robots thing, I mean, I didn't even get to watch the Transformers cartoon when I was a kid. I just got to saw all the toys my friends had because I never really saw them in the toy stores that much. And then I would watch the GoBots cartoon that I would rent from the video store. And that was always like my interaction with robots. So I probably, had I not been a G.I. Joe guy, I probably would have gone full on into like Transformers and stuff as well. But then, I had this like stage in my life as a kid where I attached myself quite strongly to Ghostbusters as well, and I had the backpack, the proton pack, and that set me on a whole path of being interested in the occult and that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm so glad Ghostbusters wasn't targeted for that stuff in the 80s, but yeah, it definitely put me down a path of interest towards horror movies and stuff. And so if I hadn't had G.I. Joe, I wouldn't have had any of that at all. Me personally,
look, it goes even deeper. In the chats, Ryan asks, if G.I. Joe hadn't existed, would Hasbro have had the financial clout to acquire the Transformers from Takara? Like, are we looking at a situation where the Transformers never reach the West?
Yeah,
just stay.
Yeah, then you wouldn't have even got knockoffs like GoBots, even because there would be no need to have done those.
Well, Saban would have like gotten hold of the Transformers somehow and meshed them in with what they called the Samurai Warriors or the Ronin Warriors or whatever they called it. Where they
I think transforming robot toys would have still hit the mainstream, but they wouldn't be as packaged as neatly as the Transformers. Like I think what Hasbro did very cleverly was create a narrative that bound these disparate toys together, and that's what rocketed them into superstardom. Because, you can't imbue a truck with character until you make it an alien from another world who is this father figure to us all. Optimus Prime is a smart bomb as a toy for a bunch of boys just, looking for a wise master.
I'm your robo daddy.
To live their life by. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, stuff like that. It's a very complex question, but I think a dimension that I want to touch on, and one that touches me particularly because I'm a pretentious fuck. I mean, listen to the words coming out of my mouth.
Guilty as charged.
Thank you. Rob, my lifelong friend, knows me better than anyone else. But I've always had sort of language at my fingertips. And part of that is, I suppose, coming from a household of educators. My father was a university professor. My mother was an English teacher. But a huge portion of that is I very faithfully read only one comic book series. And that was G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. And it was written by a guy who likes to use very big words And every time I encountered those big words, I would, as an inquiring mind, look them up. As a result, I had an arsenal of very unusual words to use for a young child. Words that would find their way into essays, words that would find their way into exams, into anything really, just into speech, day-to-day speech on the playground. You know, some kids were put off completely. They were like, "Don't be friends with that guy. He's talking funny."
His words have more than one syllable.
I also learned big words from
a number of. Yeah, well, you know, I suppose I paid the price in terms of popularity for talking so good, but I hang all that, well, a large portion of that at least, on Larry Hama. If he had not written a book called G.I. Joe, I would not have read it, and I would have been forced to kind of move my tastes onto some other comic book. Maybe not even. Maybe I wouldn't have read as much as a child. The file cards also dense with technical terminology and high concept, like philosophical questions at times, stuff that would make you think as a child, stuff that you would go away from.
Carry on.
No, of course it expanded your knowledge into the practical side of G.I. Joe, like the weapons and equipment, but also into like a diverse cast of different characters, both evil and good, possessing like a range of psychological characteristics. So like so many dimensions were given to us in this play pattern. And I don't think any other toy line ever courted such depth. So if we didn't get it from G.I. Joe, I put it to you, gentlemen, we wouldn't have gotten it from anything.
Yeah,
and
I think
quite possibly because of, you know, the other toy lines being kind of banal relative to G.I. Joe, they wouldn't have held our interest as long, and maybe, quite possibly, we wouldn't be toy fans to this day. I don't know.
I can agree with that. I can also go take it one step further in that, you know, you mentioned file cards, right? I mean, G.I. Joe file cards. And in fact, Stephen, you and I share a lot of similarities in that with regards to our youth in using big words and whatevers. And
just like whatevers.
I think, yeah, but I think, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak, but I know for myself, I also, like, I was that kid that used like bigger words than I was. But then again, I also had a reading level that was...
use the term whatevers in text and then always look with consternation at why it's got a little like, sort of squiggly red line under it. You know, whatevers is probably not a recognized word.
But you know what's nice is that it's the language and I can control it and I can make it work however I want to, and that's the beauty of
Paul,
it. Yeah,
it's gijoburg has been around for 10 years this year, and you have always used whatevers instead of whatever. And I'm finally going to point it out to you and say, I love you, Paul. It's such a Paulism. Whatever.
Shut, man. But anyway, you know, like, but that's the thing. Like, you know, I was fortunate to have a much higher reading level than most of the people in my school at my age. Well, geez, like in third grade, I was reading really big books like The Hobbit and stuff like that. Okay, so, but that was because I had read I had this like hunger for reading and hunger for like worlds because of the file cards, and the file cards made it like I remember having comic books, and then because I had a G.I. Joe file card for sci-fi, that I read it and I was like, this is cool. And then I actually opened up comic books, and I mean, geez, I was like, what, 5 years old, something when this happened, 5 or 6 years old. And I remember then going like through comic books and then like trying to read each bubble for bubble and like trying to get that right. And then like maybe asking my mom if I didn't understand a word, or asking a friend of mine's mom or whatever, if I was at my friend's house or something, because I was like really, really interested in all of that stuff. But then if you think about like the file cards, like there's no G.I. Joe toy that comes out. There's no file card. That means a lot of subsequent toy lines never got file cards either. So the Ninja Turtles toys probably the Playmates wouldn't have seen fit to have added a file card to their toys, because they would have just been like, you know, Mutagen Man, you know, there we go, you know, put gun here, you know, like I don't think we would have had that like depth. I mean, I know that He-Man did the miniature comics, and I know that in a way precedes G.I. Joe. Cool. And that in itself has also helped people read and whatever. But I think because G.I. Joe was so popular, I don't think the file card thing would have caught on. And so we wouldn't have had that with other toy lines. We wouldn't have really gotten to know these characters, and maybe we wouldn't have been as interested to pick up those toys, because there are a lot of toys that have come out in the world that, like, for example, I'm just clearly super not interested in at all. And I will bring a very good example to the stand. Dragonflies. Did you guys remember that shit?
Yes. Where are you going with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd pull the dragon tail and the flyer would kind of fly off using
it's like
sort
that.
of
It's like
helical wing.
And I mean, that came out at a time when we were still sort of the right kind, or fertile, should I say? Our minds were fertile ground for toys like that to come in.
Sorry to hear about your recent infertility, Paul.
No, but I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, we were, like, as kids, we were more curious, and we had inquiring minds that would be more...
fertile child, were you?
I was a
Sorry, shut the hell up, Stephen. Gross.
Anyway, so like those toys just never appealed to me, and I think if a lot of toys went down that kind of path of just being gimmicks and not actually having substance to try and compete with something like G.I. Joe, I don't think I would have been into as many toys or gotten into toys the way I did. I think I would have probably just stuck into Gundam model kits and probably pretty much stayed there, you know, or something.
Well, I think also compared to other toy lines, G.I. Joe definitely has a breadth of variety of characters. I mean,
yes,
most other toy lines have 6 or 7 different characters on each side, essentially. And I don't think they were ever forced to kind of like expand those, because those were based off the characters that they used in the cartoons, or I suppose in the comic books that they adapted into toys. So like everyone's favorites would be like, oh, my favorite is He-Man or Man-at-Arms, or my favorite is Lion-O, or Panthro. And there wouldn't be favorites like, you wouldn't have someone whose favorite person was like Shockwave, or me with Scoop. So there wouldn't be that kind of breadth of interest in a line. But yeah, I can definitely imagine, toys being left behind, when we turn 18 or even earlier, 16, 15, 14. And
but
you
Rob,
discover video games and you move on.
Don't you think that there's something in us? It's a nature, not nurture thing, where it would need to find expression. If not through G.I. Joe, something would have taken its place. Like I'd like to think that, my gut response to this topic was, if G.I. Joe didn't exist, well, G.I. Joburg wouldn't exist. I wouldn't have an avenue to create fan fiction. I would have stopped all creative endeavors, and I probably would have been a lawyer.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have pretended. You wouldn't have played as much pretend when you were a kid.
But there's a lot to be said for an innate nature that's in you that has just found G.I. Joe as its vehicle, and that in a world absent of G.I. Joe, it would find expression in another form. And Paul, maybe for you, it would have been the Turtles. They certainly have had an enduring legacy. For me, less clear. I think for a long time, Rob, you and I allowed the superhero toys to surpass G.I. Joe in our playtimes, because they were currently available. Like the Toy Biz, the action figures were everywhere, and G.I. Joe had dried up. So we moved on, and we really embraced that. And the thing about it is, I think we can safely say that superhero toys would have been unaffected. I mean, they were at a different scale, they had a different construction, and they took inspiration from a completely separate pool. So I think in a world without G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, that stuff would still exist in its current form, unaffected. And perhaps it just would have made us... Well, yeah, we would have all owned a lot more of it. It would have taken up a bigger share of our wallet, and perhaps would have endured. And today, Marvel and DC collectibles fans are everywhere, and they're far more numerous than G.I. Joe toy collectors. We have the box
And
office.
there's a
to thank
wide
for that.
variety of characters as well. Depending on the line, they have produced lots of characters that you would never ever think that they would make.
So,
Booster
what
Gold,
would our
Blue Beetle.
current avatars be if this was a superhero podcast? Boys, go.
Hey,
Wolverine.
I'd probably be a Blue Beetle.
Nice. Okay,
That's
so
a cool
you
one,
can
Rob.
just take my avatar right now.
Yeah, just a swap.
Boom.
Blue Beetle and Booster Gold were always some of my favorites from the comic books. They're the kind of funny duo characters. And they got up to their own adventures. Blue Beetle's also very creative. He's very inventive because he doesn't have any powers himself. He's kind of like a more happy-go-lucky Batman in a way, but more inventive, more of a creator. Like, he doesn't have dead parents. He's doing it for other reasons.
No, he's cursed with the Blue Beetle.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I can imagine a world where we would be big into superheroes, and today we'd be discussing like how happy we are with the Snyder Cut or like the latest comic book line stories. Although I can't ever really imagine Steven getting heavily into the comic books. I don't know how that would work out.
It's all about the plastic for me, and
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think you'd be more interested in getting the plastic versions and maybe knowing enough about the character to kind of play with them, in fights and downtime, but not needing to know every single thing about them and read every single story ever produced about them necessarily.
the problem with the plastic when it comes to the superhero stuff is less focus on vehicle play. And that's something that's so key to my enjoyment of toys. It's being able to go from, a land battle to an aerial battle to a fisticuffs in the street. Like G.I. Joe spans it all. They can fly, but
they can go in the water, Aquaman.
Yeah, I suppose. But what would you prefer to play? What would you prefer to play with? A figure kind of moving through the water, or the shark? And by that I mean the SHARC.
Yes, not
blasting off out of the surf and then diving back down into it. I mean, the one play pattern surpasses the other always in my mind.
And someone brought it up in the chat. G.I. Joe is also very much a more realistic depiction of of toys and reality. So there's more realism to the Joe line compared to, say, Turtle, the Turtles line or He-Man or whatever. So there's definitely a high level of realism to G.I. Joe, and I don't know how that would impact us playing with our toys and having fun and impacting people's perceptions of the real world as well. I mean, how many people would never have joined, say, the military because they didn't enjoy G.I. Joes and their depiction of the team dynamics? I think Troy mentioned that in chat.
Also, so the ripples are huge, gentlemen.
They are huge.
For sure.
And also, I think I'm just, as you guys, when you guys mentioned Toy Biz, I mean, I said I would totally have a whole bunch more superhero toys, but I'd also be less discriminating, because I know that when I used to pick up Toy Biz action figures, sometimes I'd be like, I love the character, but I really hate the fact that I can't bend its arms the way I want to. And that was a result of having an experience with G.I. Joe toys.
Yes, articulation snobbery. And certainly at the 3 3/4 or 4-inch scale, would the O-ring construction have ever kind of crossed the borders? I mean, I think it was Takara once again with the Microman line that had the O-ring initially in the 70s. But it was G.I. Joe that kind of threw that into the mainstream. And then you had the imitation artists like the Core just sustaining that O-ring construction for many, many, many years and kind of making it the gold standard. It's like, yes, this is the perfect way a mini representation of a human being should move. And superheroes were definitely playing catch up. And in fact, they didn't ever catch up until you got into the kind of the Marvel Legends phase. I mean, I know there were some super articulated Spider-Men back in the day, but that was
I got.
But that was almost sold as an action feature. It's like this particular figure's feature is the fact that he has an O-ring inside and can crunch his abs.
Fingers.
Yeah, he's got 40 points of articulation.
Oh, before that?
Before that, the Spider-Man, the animated series, had a super articulated, but he didn't have a bicep swivel. Like, he was essentially still a straight arm figure. But he had an O-ring inside, so you had a little bit of juice. You know, he had that roly waist associated with having a rubber band inside you. But it's curious to me that like maybe we would have been stuck with the Star Wars 5 POA at the 3 3/4 inch scale for forever. You know, we've backslid thanks to lines like Reaction into that. And now there's the Star Wars retro collection is going gangbusters, man. They're pumping out the Mandalorian figures now. So it's quite possible that at that small scale, we would have just kept regarding them as, you know, this is a vehicle play line only. You're just going to jam your Luke Skywalker figure into an X-Wing anyway, so why bother? So, boom. That's all you get, 5 POA.
Can you imagine us being big into Star Wars instead? I mean, that's a line that has lots of vehicles.
Yep, and then the sequels came out, and I would have
enjoyed that.
Maybe I would have been Star Wars to the death if I didn't have a better line to collect.
I think you just collect the toys. I mean, you can almost disregard the movies, at least the later movies, in a way. I mean, we've generally disregarded.
I'm a snob about it though, Rob. Like I refuse to have any apparel that has a Millennium Falcon with the rectangular dish on it.
I am the same.
And it's very telling to me that
I'm glad you guys are able to buy apparel like that, even.
Well, hey man, how pampered am I? Yesterday I was at a sort of a collectibles lifestyle store called Zing in Oz, and they have the Galaxy's Edge release of the big Millennium Falcon, which is the Millennium Falcon that I have at home, but this is the latest release of it, kind of inspired by the theme park, but basically it's the sequel trilogy Millennium Falcon with the rectangular dish. But and this is where I knew they were playing to my demographic. They have an insert photo on the front of the box which shows you that clearly you get the old dish as well as an interchangeable part. So they know that you got a bunch of purists out there who are like, I want to disregard the sequels completely. I want to forget they ever happened, and I want to display my Falcon as the classic Falcon that you are going to see in the original trilogy.
The true test, though, is if it's the original Falcon, then you won't have to bypass the compressor to jump into hyperspace properly.
Thanks for that, noob.
Also, guys, what do you think the core would have been like? Do you think it would have been like Star Core? Do you think everything they would have done would have been like a knockoff of Star Wars toys? I think Leonard would have done that. I think Leonard would have done like a bunch of goofy aliens and like, you know, guys with laser swords and space wizards and all kinds of funky stuff to compete with Star Wars.
Did Leonard come into existence based on sales of their G.I. Joe knockoffs? Or did Leonard build its empire on Super Soaker? I think quite possibly we wouldn't have had the core, but we also wouldn't have had the Super Soaker. I think Leonard would have not gotten off the ground had there not been the off-brand cheap alternative G.I. Joe. That's me speaking out of school. I don't have the facts to back that up, but I think if the core came first, which I think was in 1986. But if the core came first, that was the bedrock that Leonard built their fortunes on, and then they were able to produce, you know, the other products that then put them on the map and kept them there. But yeah, I think the bread and butter of Leonard is 3 3/4 inch action figures. Without G.I. Joe existing, dubious as to whether or not they would have ever existed.
And then tie-in properties as well. I think Ryan brings it up in the chat. if you watch the toys that made us, you can see how it went from Star Wars to Joe to Transformers, where Joe is what built Hasbro. Also, with the success of the Joe cartoon, we may not have seen some other properties. So would we even have had cartoons based off our favorite toys?
Mm. Yeah,
or tie-in comic books? Would there have been a need for it? Because the companies would they have even have branched out into those to sell their comic books or sell their toys? I mean,
I think the precursor to G.I. Joe and things like He-Man, made toy companies realize pretty quickly that like you're dead in the water unless you've got a cartoon to push it. So yeah. I think seeing animated toy commercials / comic cartoons would have been an avenue that would have existed. Even
so it's a natural idea you think that would come along, like marketing would be like, yeah, we need to be able to market these things, just put it on television.
A good idea just sort of caught like wildfire when we were in the era of, I suppose, Reaganomics, where it became legal again to advertise toys essentially using the cartoon medium. Gentlemen, I'm afraid I've got to move this debate on because, man.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I think from what we've discussed, I think it'll be a very sad world without G.I. Joe. We'd be playing superheroes, or maybe Star Wars, or maybe not at all. I think we're definitely living in the best reality.
I would go one step further into the sort of the morbid and say that Rob, you and I would have been friends regardless, because we would have still gone to mainstream films together, even if the kind of the toy play had died a death because of G.I. Joe not being there. Because G.I. Joe was the kind of toy that we could play with even when we were a little bit too old for it, because we could inject the maturity into it. Whereas the other stuff perhaps is a little bit too kiddie, superhero play. Well, no, I suppose thanks to the cinematic endeavors, superhero play could also still be quite adult. But yes, so Rob and I would have been mates. But Paul, I think you can recall the fateful meeting between you and I. It was
we met because of
purely a G.I. Joe discussion that kind of got
Otherwise, we would have just been long-lasting dance rivals or some shit.
I don't think I ever would have walked into the comic book store that day and struck up conversation if I wasn't cruising for G.I. Joe books. Because I went in there and you asked me, what are you looking for, buddy? And I was like, got any G.I. Joe? And that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. But gentlemen, we have an excellent voice note in store. So I think let's crack open Postbox the Pit and let's hear from Law.
Hello, G.I. Joe Berg. It's me, Law, again. One time, my photo was taken in the Road Toad, and now everyone thinks that that's what I operate. But I think I need something more, appropriate for a police officer. So if you were going to give me a vehicle, which vehicle would you give me? Thank you so much, kind gentlemen.
Oh, man. This is a topic that I wish we had my buddy Alistair on, because if he was in the mix, guess which avatar he would use? It would be Law. Paul, you'd be whipping up a Sonic Fighters Law avatar for the man.
Hell yeah.
He is a fan, and I can tell you straight up, his Law character used a quad bike from it was the Soldier Force line by Chap May, but they did a police versus bad guys subset.
I remember that.
It was a blue and white police ATV. But because Alistair loved his guns, this was a rolling arsenal. He basically took press stick, not blue tack. I have realized there's a difference. Blue tack is inferior to press stick. So go South Africa, thank you. It just has better qualities at higher temperatures. It doesn't become goop. Press stick is incredible. I've got a little blob of press stick that I've kept from SA, which I packed back in February of 2020. And it is with me to this day, and I'm very sentimental about it. Zazel will know, because it disappeared into one of his pockets during a shoot for the Slaughterhouse. And fortunately, he got it back to me lint and all. But anyways, I'm getting off topic.
Yeah.
Alistair would press stick an arsenal of weapons to this ATV. So Law would have any necessary equipment to deal with any Cobra scumbags. But yeah, I think I'm going to just take that answer and superimpose it into this question in honor of my good buddy Al.
I think a Silver Mirage would be really cool. Because at least you have a place for like Order to kind of sit. That'd be kind of cool.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Be like chips, man. Like fuck.
Exactly. Or as someone Gaz suggests in chat, an Ore Striker with a siren on top instead of the cannon.
That siren sounds un-American. Ghostbusters.
And you, Paul, what do you think you'd be riding?
I actually think the Triple T would have been a great vehicle for Law. Because it seems very Johnny Lawman in a lot of ways as well. Like him buzzing around the Joe base with his little Triple T.
Sorry, please continue.
Buzzing around the Joe base with his little Triple T and, like, Beachhead, pick that up! Or it's a court martial,
Order running along behind him, trying to catch up.
Exactly. No, and then, Order would be, in front. He'd be scouting out stuff, and he'd be like, Snake Guys, got it. Stop fraternizing on the base. Court martial. That's what he would be doing. Like, Bazooka, stop drinking.
As Andrew suggested, a Hummer, police style with rear cage and light bar up top. That'd be kind of cool, because I was struggling to think of something that he could kind of put criminals into. I mean, obviously, he doesn't have to cart around criminals all the time, but a Hummer would be a good option for that.
Yeah, well, the Triple T as well. You just tie a rope around the Triple T and you drag the guys at the back.
It's got the tow hitch.
Yeah, there you go, dude.
Excellent suggestion from Mr. Sweeney, the Fun School Vamp. Yes. Super Cop. Bam.
I was surprised none of you was going to... I thought Steven was going to go all Fun School Super Cop on us with it, to be honest.
To wit, if you want an excellent review of the Super Cop box set, check out Sergeant Slaughter's Slaughterhouse. Yeah, there you go, Zez. Promoting, brother. It is a fantastic little, tribute to a fantastic set. Did you know that it came with not only the Fun School sort of cop vamp, but also a blue and white version of the Fang helicopter and the Devilfish? Sweet.
No.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And came with Super Cop, which is essentially, I think it's Sergeant Slaughter's head, Flint's legs, Iceberg's arms, and I'm blanking on the torso. Might be Wild Bill. I don't know. But terrific. Super Cop.
That's a proper Franken-Joe.
But yeah, that's a very cop kind of head with the mirror shades and the little pencil moustache. Thank you, Sarge.
That was a great question.
And with that, gentlemen, I think it's time to get the rubber to meet the road on my ATV. Paul, you heading out on your Silver Mirage, and Rob, you got...
I have the Silver Mirage.
I'm going to be on my Triple T. Although, before I jump
Ain't
on
no rubber on a Triple T. That's a tank tread.
Before I run out, I just want to do a small shout out to Chasing 80s Toys. Chris Miwa, they've got a very cool Defiant video series that's out at the moment. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out yet, do check it out. Getting a Defiant for any Joe fan is no small thing, and I think you guys need to check out this video series. Part 2, I believe, is on its way, but Part 1 is out there right now on his site, and I will get the link to Steven so that we can pop it on the bottom of this video so you guys can check it out as well. Just wanted to just do a small shout out to Chris Miwa for that, and I'd also like to welcome another member of the Berg Force, Alex Spirito Arellano. I hope I'm saying your name properly. If I haven't, I do apologize. But welcome to the Berg Force, dude.
Yay, welcome, Alex.
Yay. So, yeah, we got a new Patreon, which brings us to, if you want to join our Patreon and get exclusive content like being part of the audience and getting cool stickers for your Triple T and whatnot, then please check out our Patreon. There it is on the screen. Boom. And the link is in the description below. And if you want to get some very cool G.I. Joburg merch or just have very cool G.I. Joe styled merch, I have to say that, then check out our G.I. Joburg Teespring store to go and see our very, very cool G.I. Joburg merch, which I will say is very cool because I made it myself. Anyway, enough plugging of all of that good stuff.
And with that, 198 is done. And the road to 200 is, whoa, we're so close.
We're so close.
What's the value of a number? Look, guys, all I can say is after a in-depth discussion of a world without G.I. Joe, a real American hero, man, am I grateful that they exist.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're all here. We're all mates. G.I. Joburg exists. We got friends in places all around the world, in the chat box, out there listening to this, watching this. I know you two gentlemen, perhaps a little bit more intimately than I should. Life is good. We can be very, very, very grateful for this toy line that unites us all. So, there's the positive spin for us.
And all the special, exactly. All the special and cool people that is brought into our world as well. Like, guys, there's actually quite a lot of you to mention. So I'm just going to say, love you all. Seriously, it is very cool.
It doesn't work when we both bring the schmaltz, Paul.
Well, I can't help it, dude. I'm sorry. Now Rob,
someone like Rob needs to just be like, yeah, whatever.
Whatever, guys.
Exactly the same.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, but you know.
Yeah.
It's not
but
beer.
Guys, like we did get to see the beauty that is America, or I at least got to see the beauty that is America because of this love of G.I. Joe, and that is something hellishly super special to me, and it gave me one of the best road trips, if not the best road trip of my life. And so, yeah,
we'll have another one. 2032, guys, it's coming soon. Cool, guys. Have a good one.
Yo, Joe.
Whoa.